Outstation to me is a band for India. I'm not even thinking about outside India. And I want parents to encourage their kids to, hey, take BTS off your playlist or your wall. Put these Indian boys. It doesn't seem like Bollywood is focusing on, are we going to get a Hollywood release for this movie? It's just like, no, this is for real India. Their teachers were One Direction fans when they were, so, like, it's amazing to see how it still matters to people and the friendships that were created through that. I don't think there's been a K-pop album, of the biggest K-pop artists that have had like 7 songs in the top 20, for example. If you weren't a K-pop fan, you now understand. And that's part of the Visva vision. Record label person telling me no girl will put an Indian guy on her wall. Yeah, no, that was absolutely the intent. I wanted the name of the label to be Indian and to figure out a way.
Hi, Savan. Firstly, a huge welcome to India today. I have to say congratulations to you because Visha Records, as the name suggests, is dominating the globe already with K-pop Demon Hunters, and now we are going to see more with Outstation as well. So huge congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're very happy with how things are progressing.
I think you kind of knew that this is how it is going to be because the kind of journey that you have had, I feel like from Harmony to Visva Record, it's kind of like crazy and surreal when I was just looking at the journey that you have had. Do you ever feel that as well?
I feel very lucky. I don't really think about the past successes. I just kind of, it's only in moments like this where it's, where it's brought up. I just like continuing to move forward. I feel like maybe it's my ADD. I just have to continue. I feel like I'm never like just satisfied. I never stop and like celebrate something. I just like, okay, great. Now let's keep going. What's next? I'm
But
more
that's
like,
the mantra then, like just keep going, just like, keep hustling.
yeah, I think it's, I feel like to stop and just celebrate one win, the broader vision hasn't been accomplished yet. So until we have broken like Outstation and really created, like we have D, the Tamil singer coming in a few months, and until we've like broken her like around the world and we have every teenage girl screaming for Outstation in India, like when those things happen, I'll stop and I'll celebrate. But there's still a lot more to do.
I honestly speaking, I already see that happening because the vision is there and the intent is there. And as I believe, as long as there is intent, things will happen. But tell
Yeah.
me, because I find it interesting that you named your label as Vishwa Records, because for anyone who understands Hindi, Vishwa would mean global. And I think that has been the endeavor eventually. I want to know, was that the idea to have an Indian probably represent India in a way where we take the global stage because I think we everyone has been talking about it for a while, but no
Yeah.
one has been really able to crack that code, which you have so far.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, that was absolutely the intent. I wanted the name of the label to be Indian and to figure out a way where it's also like Visvas feels like a very I mean, it means universe, obviously, but it also like it feels like a universal word, and I think it just feels international and it feels global, but it still has its roots in India. And I think that's what I want the label to represent. Where the roots are Indian, but it's global. And just like myself and my career, I'm Indian, and hope the music I made hopefully was global.
Hopefully, I mean, you're being very modest when you're saying that because the amount of nominations that you have had, everything is global, Sawan. You have really represented everything on a global stage. But tell me again, I mean, before I come to Outstation and get to know a bit more about that, what kind of sort of gave you that confidence that now is the right time to get a label started and to have a global Indian boy band? Because I think between, at least in the last 1 decade, we did not see a lot of boy bands even in America. All we heard was from Korea, and that is why it blew up so much. And in India, we have not had a history of boy band for the longest time. I mean, maybe 2 decades back. But
Yeah.
and what gave you that confidence that, okay, this is the right time that we can actually come, we can actually have a boy band from India?
Well, one thing was, and it's a strange one. One thing is, I had a conversation with my friend Daniel Eck, who created Spotify, and we were just talking about, how global, there's been benefits to Spotify, and there's also been, ways that Spotify has hurt music, and like especially the way they pay songwriters and things like that. But one of the benefits of Spotify is it's made the music business a global business, right? And
Yeah.
when he was saying that they're really going to try and make a stamp in India, to me it was the obvious thing, like, oh, okay, well that's going to be an opportunity for, especially if Indians in India can sort of adapt to Spotify. Um, then we have this global platform because there's so many people in India. If you can crack non-film music in India, it will affect the global chart, which is what everyone looks at in the music business. They'll look at
Yeah.
their individual country chart, but really the global chart is now what matters. And there's enough people in India and there's enough talent in India where if say 100, 200 million people adapt to Spotify in India and a song is a hit in India, it's a global hit all of a sudden, right? It will be
Yeah.
dominate the global chart the way Latin music did for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Latin countries, they really adapted Spotify, and that's what affected the global chart. And then the rest of the world started looking at Latin music as a serious contender. And that was my dream for India. And I felt where I was in my career, I was working so hard, I didn't really ever stop to look and see like all the stuff that had happened, and what it might have meant, as being the only Indian who's ever been able to do that. And I took we had a family illness in my house, and I took a couple years off. And during that
Mm.
time, it was like it was very good for me to reflect on everything in my journey and my past. And then people started giving me like lifetime achievement things all of a sudden. I had to reflect. I had to reflect a lot. And I all of these things combined made me go, well, one of the things I always wanted to make sure with my whatever legacy I leave behind is I want to make sure that I stop being the only Indian guy in the room in the major music business. That I wanted to make sure that, when I grew up, I wanted to be in a boy group when I grew up, and I remember a big record label person telling me no girl will put an Indian guy on her wall. And I think that we have an opportunity, and given, the sort of blessing of the sort of, I guess, capital that I earned through my successes, it felt like the right time to lead the way. I felt like if I didn't do it, who else was going to do it? Um, and now it's sort of become a life mission.
But tell me, because you've seen the music industry sort of change from pre-internet time to now streamings,
Yeah.
a lot of times now, at least, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times now the intention is to get that global hit versus being authentic to the song or to the sound that you perhaps want to create. How do you, as a songwriter in today's generation, like how do you balance that? And what is your intention when it comes to Outstation? What do you want their identity to be when it comes to sonic identity?
Well, I just want it to feel, I think you just have to do the best thing you can do and not worry about everything else. Um, I always believe that if just stop looking around, just focus on the thing you're doing, make it as good as you and the people you're working with can possibly make it. Put the work in to do that. Um, and leave no stone unturned, like really make sure that it's right. And I think if it's as good as it can possibly be, then you have the best shot. If you're trying to adapt to something, I think that's when it becomes also inauthentic, because your intention is to make it a hit rather than make it something that just feels great to you and the people in the room. Like, if you love something enough, other people are going to. Um, and with Outstation, for me, again, like I've said this a couple times before, but I feel like we have, as Indians, not only outside of India, but in India, I've learned, I don't know if it's due to colonialism, or, but we always sort of look for the West for
Mm.
validation, right? Like whether it's the definition of beauty, the how we dress, how we keep our beard or hair. You know what I mean? We're always that's sort of weirdly become the standard for us. And I think it's made Indians overall, it's a complex we all have compared to the West, where we almost feel like second class,
Yeah.
to the West, right? And I noticed as I was observing and getting to know a lot of the non-film music business that they were so obsessed with validation from the West. And where I think Bollywood has got it right in a way, obviously standards of beauty, that's another discussion, but they never, it doesn't seem like Bollywood is focusing on, are we going to get a Hollywood release for this movie? It's just like, no, this is for real India, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the music should be the same. And Outstation to me is a band for India. I'm not even thinking about outside India. I think if we make it for India, make it something that India can be proud of. This is India's band. This is authentically India. We made sure that the guys were from all around the country. I didn't want to make it city centric. They're going to be singing in Hindi and sometimes their own local languages. We're not going to try and do like an English like
Ah,
pop song. It's going to be Indian writers from India in India. Like this is in I want India to have ownership of this band. I had the idea of the band, but this is India's band. And I want parents to encourage their kids to, hey, take BTS off your playlist or your wall. Put these Indian boys. Like for me, it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger vision of, popular music has always been youth culture driven, right?
yeah.
And I found that in India, so many of the artists, even the former boy bands you talk about, they were so much older. They were like in their mid 20s. And to me, that's too late to compete with the rest of the world if you're even talking about the rest of the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If we can encourage Indian youth to start earlier, because India's got so much talent and so much creative. We have such a beautiful, diverse like culture and dances and harmonics and instruments and everything and rhythms and if we can focus on getting the really talented young people inspired to take the shot and let them know, and I hope Outstation becomes that,
Hmm.
lets young kids know, like, hey, that's something I can do and I can start now. I
Yeah.
don't have to wait till after school. I can start and do this now. Um, that's when we can make a real mark. Is when because it's all youth driven, but when you have like, all as great as some of the big Punjabi stars are, they're in their like mid to late 30s, some in their 40s, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
are they going to connect to Indian youth? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted Outstation to be the voice of Indian youth, and I want they're actually their age. They're not pretending. They're not in their late 20s or something pretending to be young. They are their age. They're the peers, and we hope that they will then inspire others, other 18-year-olds, hopefully even younger, 17, 15-year-olds to go, this is what I want to do. And their parents then will feel better about it and
Yeah.
say, well, I see that Outstation. Yeah, you could be like that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that will change everything. I think that will change the confidence of Indian youth. If they see one of their own peers being successful and doing what they're
Yeah.
doing, I think what it changes, it's more than just music. It changes a whole culture and our confidence in the world that, hey, we are Indians and India is its own thing. We don't need to look, even the Indians outside India, I think will give them confidence to walk around the Western world and,
Yeah.
because they will be so proud that they're from this place that creates this amazing stuff.
Absolutely. And I think you're already one step ahead when it comes to just doing that. But, it is challenging in today's time, at least from where I look, because we are competing against global music at this point in terms of just streaming, in terms of everything, right? There's regional music, there's of course the quintessential Bollywood Hindi music that we have, and then of course the global music as well. And we have seen the music streaming, charts in India kind of like change, and it's surprising and also exciting at the same time. Keeping all of that in mind, what do you envision, at least for the next 2 years, when it comes to outstation? Like, what do you tell them? What are the set goals that you have for them, if at all you do have it?
I mean, for me, it's going to start with getting the best songs and getting the best talent in India to help us write the best songs. Then it's going to be them going out into the country and performing and building fans. We need to build like a fan army for Outstation. They're such charismatic guys and they have their own areas where they're from who I think are getting behind them. And I think we have to sort of they have to be in front of young people performing and going all over the country. Again, not city centric, going all over. Obviously, they'll do some stuff in the cities, but they need to go all over India, and that's the plan. And just start building a fan army, and
Yeah.
um, I think that's key now is to build real fans and not just a one-off viral moment or a one-off song. You need to go and you need to touch people and you need people to see you. I think the old school way of doing things is still quite valid. It never stopped working. We just stopped doing it. You know?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct when you say that, because I think at least, yeah, in India we were always looking for, at least in the last 5 years, I've seen that we are going for the most viral moment versus the most authentic moment, which will eventually stay longer. And I
Yeah.
think that is what your intent is. But again, like I want to know, will you be actively participating in songwriting as well for them, or are you going to be just overlooking at everything that they are doing, but leave the songwriting to the Indian songwriters here? Like, what is the plan there?
The plan is to, I will be overlooking, and my hope is to leave it with the best Indian songwriters who are the best at writing songs for the Indian market, in Hindi. And I don't have the audacity to believe that I'll know how to do that better than they will. And obviously I'll oversee, and me and the team will go, maybe you can make this melody a little bit better, like that kind of stuff. But I really want this to feel like India's band, and again, I obviously had the vision for it, but it needs to feel like it needs to be India's band. This is no longer my band, you
Yeah.
know. And that's really important to me. And I think, so far we've seen a lot of the songwriting community get behind it. And, we have plans to make, let songwriters keep their copyrights so they can earn forever off of those songs.
Hmm.
And I'm not a fan of the buyout system where I feel that's kind of ripping off the people that are the most important, who are the people
Yeah.
that create songs.
Does it come from a place where we have seen it all? Because I think you've had a journey where you have seen all of this happening. So now
Yeah.
you want to give more power to the songwriters so that they feel like they're empowered enough to really like work towards it.
Absolutely. We want them to feel like, because there's nothing I know as a songwriter with One Direction and those kind of things, when you crack a phenomenon, something that becomes a phenomenon, just, One Direction was like 10 or almost how
Al-
many?
Almost
15.
15, 16 years
Yeah.
back now. Yeah.
And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like when you can sort of touch that many people with your songs or be a part of something that changes people's lives. I still think my kids, their teachers were One Direction fans when they were, so, like it's amazing to see how it still matters to people and the friendships that were created through that. That's what these groups do a lot as well, is it creates bonds between a community, it creates community and bonds between kids in a time when, social media and algorithms are trying to divide us. I feel like bands like this, if we can get it off and connect, they create community, and those friendships and those relationships last forever.
Absolutely. I remember you mentioned in one of your interviews that every person or most of the people that you met during X Factor and during One Direction continue to be your really close friend even now.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's really beautiful.
And so many times I've run into, older One Direction fans who are now in their like 30s. His best friends are still people from One
Yeah.
Direction fan groups and things like that. It just shapes their lives and their memory. I mean, my sister was a huge New Kids on the Block fan. When she was a young teenager, her friends they became friends through New Kids on the Block. They're still her lifelong friends.
Yeah,
She actually
true.
she became a social worker based on a quote one of the guys from New Kids on the Block said in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, there's the power that these bands can have if you do it right. And the positivity and the joy they can spread is so important. And I think in this world where there's so much conflict and so much divisiveness, that's there on purpose. We have to fight that also with things of joy and escape.
Absolutely.
You know.
I don't have a lot of time, so I'll take my last two questions now, Savan. While you say that, with Visva Record, of course, the intent or the idea is to have this to gift India, I would use the word gift because I think it's been long due, overdue. So let's put it like this, that to gift India its first boy band, which is for India, made in India, for India, by India in ways like.
Yeah.
I want to know, but you also chose, I mean, K-pop Demon Hunters. Absolutely love the album, by the way. Just been listening to it on record, on repeat, on loop. But tell me, what gives you the confidence to then have your first major release from the label to be an animated film, which is actually about K-pop and like a song, an album which really resonates a lot more with the K-pop audience. Like, just wanted to understand that.
Yeah, no, I felt that it was really a friend of mine at Sony Pictures who I'd worked with before. She brought it to me and said, I really want to support your label. I know you want to do soundtracks because I've put, I put the word out that I want to do soundtracks. And I said, I don't want to do like F1 and those big things. I want to do like family movies. I want to do these like rom-coms, things like that. And she said to me, I've got this thing that I think is really special. And that's part of Visva as well. It's not just a specific mandate of has to just be Indian, has to just be it's really what feels special and what feels global. And I knew that a lot. I know that there's a lot of sort of K-pop movies in development in the US. And I was like, well, this will be first to market. And I watched it when it was just drawings, and I thought it was so good. And I just felt like so many kids around the world will relate to it and love the story. And I was trying to understand K-pop myself, and it helped me understand the world a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so I said, let's do it. And the music was already there. The music was great. And it's been a joy to watch connect. But what I see with it is I don't think it's a K-pop movie anymore. I think it's a pop movie. Like the way that it's streaming and
Oh my
connecting,
God. Yeah.
it's bigger than, if you look at all the songs, I don't think there's been a K-pop album, of the biggest K-pop artists that have had like 7 songs in the top 20, for example, of Spotify. Like now it's just pop, it's
Yeah.
become pop. And what I love about it, it's a diverse story. It's showing a world that if you weren't a K-pop fan, you now understand. And that's part of the Visva vision, right? Is to bring new worlds and to make it feel like a global, we're all one universe, we share.
Absolutely.
Um, it sort of lines with the vision in that way, if you know what I
Have
mean.
you seen the records? I mean, people are saying that the songs have really surpassed BTS and Blackpink, who are really like the barometer when it comes to K-pop representation in the West. When I was reading all this, I'm just like, wow, I never thought in my wildest dream this was gonna happen. So,
Yeah, it's become, I mean, it's almost out of our hands. It's become like this phenomenon. I mean, I have to give all the credit to the songwriters and artists and the movie makers who created this amazing world. Um, you know, as a label, we had almost the least part. We put it out and marketed it and help get pour gasoline on the fire, but all credit is due um to the, for us it was like I guess a good bet, but
but the bet paid off. Like,
yeah, for everyone else, they created it, and it's a beautiful thing, and I'm really happy for all of them.
and for you, I mean, I love when I see that it's Visha Records label that has presented this music. I mean, I think for me, I mean, when I look at that, it makes me more proud as an Indian myself. So
Thank
it
you.
wouldn't have happened if it was not for you, Savan. So obviously,
Thank
congratulations on that. Lastly, now I want to know from you. Of course, we have spoken about the vision that you have for Outstation. There's more talent that you will be launching in future through Visva Records, right? But I want to know because, like I said, the market is changing, and today while a lot of music scene globally is dominated by West, there's a lot of K-pop influence, of course, which we have seen with concerts and everything. Where do you see India really exploding? Because you are in the in of it, you know the Western market. You are now seeing the K-pop explode in the US, especially. Where do you see India exploding in that market? Because we've been saying that the future is India, the future is Indian music, but as someone who is in as an insider there, where do you see it?
So there's two things I think about when I think about that. Is one, one is seeding Indian influence in the music beyond hip hop, like Timbaland used to sample, right? Indian songs, but seeding it in pop, global pop music, seeding the rhythms and sometimes the melodies and the voices with the big artists I work with. So the first sort of experiment, I guess, with that has been Sapphire,
Yeah.
right? And second was, K-pop didn't try and be big in the West. It was so big in Korea that the West paid attention. Because in the
Mm.
streaming economy, if something gets so big somewhere, it will all of a sudden start showing up on the global chart. So for me, it's something first has to be so big in India that
Mm.
the rest of the world goes, whoa, what's going
Yeah.
on over there? We want some of that. You know what I mean? Because if a billion people love something, it's likely that another billion are going to like it, right?
True.
Uh,
True.
so, so again, it's part of the vision for Outstation. If we can make it big enough in India, the rest of the world would just come. We don't
Yeah.
have to adapt. I guess my thing is that I've seen like some of these artists try and adapt to the West. They get a little bit of heat in India and then they try and quickly adapt to the West. And then they lose India and they're not Western enough for the West. So they lose everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
My thesis is that if we make these artists like Outstation or D like big enough in India, like they get so big it becomes like a phenomenon, then the rest of the world will come to us. We don't have to adapt to them
Yeah.
because the best thing for the Indian music business is for something to just stay authentically what it is and then let the world come to us. Why should we adapt to the world? We've been adapting, India has been adapting to the rest of the world for far too long. It has
Yeah.
far too much talent and far too much richness in the culture that we should have confidence in our culture and our people that if we just make it huge there, the rest of the world will come.
And they will come. This interview is going to be on record, and we will come back to it maybe 5 years from now when we have actually achieved this goal, perhaps. Savan,
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time and all the very best for the vision that you have. We fully support you in that vision, and we hope that you achieve what you are looking for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.